What up, guys? Welcome to the SoundCentric podcast. I'm Samuel Sarfo,
I'm Adam Dash.
and thank you all for tuning in for this week's episode. Today, we have another special guest with us from
Yes,
Illinois.
sir.
He just dropped his third album, Wandering Out Loud, an incredible project. If you haven't heard it so far, we'll put the link in the description. Go and check it out. But Reed, thank you so much for being here, man. Welcome to the pod.
Man, appreciate you guys for having me. I'm super excited.
We're excited.
This has been like a year in the making. So
Yes, long time. But you know, as a fan of the pod, how we started things with a playlist title and a playlist song just to start our week. So, Sam, it's been a week. How are we feeling? What's the playlist title?
The playlist title is gonna be Kid A from Radiohead. That's one of their albums.
All right.
The song, man, I don't know. I wish you put me on the spot. I'm gonna say Dominic Fike, How Much Is Weed? Honestly, I've been trying to get into more songwriting. I've been putting restrictions on myself, having to write every day. I have my note out, trying to get the creative juices flowing. It's so easy to get your cheese blocked, and I'm just trying to write as much as
Yeah.
possible. I've been in the stew a little bit, cooking up some things, so I just got to keep up the pressure. You know how it is as an independent artist. So,
Yeah.
what about you, Adam?
So, as I was saying before we clicked record, I've been I've been lacking motivation for what to write about, and sometimes it gets too dark when you're writing, and it's too depressing. It's you want to just write some bars. So my playlist title and song is going to be something to rap about. Freddie Gibbs, as we were just talking about.
hmm
Um, but yeah, sometimes you get that little mental block, and you don't even know what the first line should be. And the first line could be the hardest thing because that sets off the entire rest of the song. But once you find that good bar to start the song off with, sometimes it just keeps going. So last night I was able to write a full song. I was
There we
happy
go.
about it, but it's been a minute.
Yes,
But
sir.
Reed, how are we? What is the playlist title? What is the song?
and I would say making up my own playlist title, I would say Moving Fast. And then I would say the song is Lifetime by Femdot and Saba. Because I feel like I've done this for a lifetime now, but I also feel like I don't do as enough as what I should.
Yeah. Hey, shout out Femdot. He's amazing.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
saw him on that.
The Chicago, they're so good, bro.
Yeah.
hmm
I saw him on the Red Veil tour, and that guy was spitting. And
Facts.
I got his merch. It was cool shit.
Yeah. I was, before Luke went off of Saba's last tour he had, because that was my first ever concert with Saba.
Really?
And I got to see
that one.
him, Femdot, and Mindy. And I was like, this is amazing. And I got to see Pivot Gang. So I'm like, this is all my favorite rappers and singers on. So I'm good.
That's fire.
Dude.
I missed that concert by one day in Columbus. I was so
Oh,
pissed.
for real?
But yeah, I left the day before. And Loot had basically my album of the year that year. I love that one. Golden House?
Very solid album. Very solid.
But Reed, man, everybody's their own harshest critic, and everyone goes super hard when critiquing themselves. Your album was incredible, dude. Here's your flowers for real, because
I appreciate
you're really
Yes,
putting
sir.
in the work, and we see it and we hear it. And he's one of the best spitters I know in the indie realm right now. Like what I've heard, you and Kelly, top tier.
And I really appreciate that, Sam, because sometimes I feel like I don't be rapping about nothing.
Yeah.
Aren't most rappers rapping about nothing? I thought that's just how it is, no?
I try to
It's
rap
fun.
stuff. I just rap about everyday life. So I get
Man, the amount of times I'll write haters in one of my lyrics, I'm like, I don't really got haters besides myself. But I'm going to mention them just in case they come.
people get mad for using the same words sometimes, but I use them in a different context. Never understood it. Other than that,
This is random, but there's certain artists that I've listened to so much that I know what words they use so much. So
Dude,
for example,
Joey Badass, word is bond.
Yes.
Right, he put his hands on his head.
Man, I told my friend is a diehard Joey Badass fan, and I love Joey. But I told him, this word is. I know whenever he says word is bond, that means he's freestyling and he did not write the verse because
Logic.
I was gonna say Logic does the same thing.
Does it so much.
Yeah.
Rome Streets. This isn't a freestyle thing. I think he just likes the word. He says peons so much.
Yeah.
And it's such a random word, but I've noticed he says peons. But yes, Logic and Joey are such big culprits of using the same line / wording.
Yeah.
I think Rome does it harder though. I feel like Logic just oversaturates it sometimes. I still love Logic. Don't get me. I used to love Under Pressure is one of my favorite debut albums ever. But
you can see I have Everybody on my ceiling. I mean, I just love the concept albums, what he used to do, the Credible True Story, all that shit. That's how I got. Also, his mixtapes are how I got into 90s hip hop because I would look up like what the instrumental was, and I would see it's like, oh, I always know who Jay-Z is, but I've never really listened to his albums. And then I would listen to All Reasonable Doubt. I'm like, oh, that's where these beats came from? Thinking that like maybe they were just like Logic was just had a good choice in beats.
You would think. He usually
He
does.
said you would think.
He does.
But man,
His last two albums were, his production is crazy, but I feel like I'm not trying to sound like a hater, but I feel like he wastes some of them sometimes.
yeah, I mean, his writing style doesn't do it for me as much as it did when I was in high school. All respect to him, and it's like it's awesome what he's doing now because he's an independent artist now, and he's doing the whole Discord thing and interacting with the fans. I think that's sick. But
I thought on that, like getting into his Discord, but I don't know. Maybe
I
I'll
I don't want to pay.
But yeah, let's keep it a beat. I really just don't want to pay $10 a month.
Yeah.
This will be a perfect segue. You had a line in your song, right? And it really stood out to me. Making real raps from the indie traps. Don't be signing shit because they're playing with you and messing with your money. They don't give a shit about how it's coming, you know? And that's how you taking pride in how much you are as an independent artist. But how do you feel in terms of people joining labels, signing to labels, especially with TikTok now seeing like the route which labels go to look for new artists? How do you feel about it? Do you want to stay indie? Do you want to have the ownership of everything? What do you think?
I think if it benefits the person, signing a label is like kind of like a dream come true. That's always like the dream for any rapper, singers. Like, you came from this place, you really had nothing, and then you really made it up, and you're like, Def Jam wants to sign you. Interscope wants to sign you. Dreamville, which is technically still an independent label, wants to sign you, which that would be perfect for me. That's like my dream.
Bro.
That's like dream stable. But at the same time, it's like, I feel like more creativeness comes out of being independent than there is on a label. I like to have a lot of say for what I want to put out, because if I don't put out something that's not me and it's kind of like saturated by everybody else around me, that just doesn't make me as authentic as what I say I am. And that's what really dictates the line between face value and what's actually behind the machine. That's how I look at it. So like, obviously I don't have the numbers, but like being independent has opened doors for me to make friends like you guys, AK, Seth, Frankie, Chess, like CQCX. We're not a label, but I mean, like, as a collective, as a whole, like, it just fits. I found so many people through music that are like I consider family now, that I feel like if I was, say I went on TikTok and made like a viral song right off the bat, and then just like kind of saturated that for a whole like month to 2 months, and then a label came up and like, hey, we want to sign you even though you have one viral hit song, I feel like I wouldn't have those same relationships or had as fun with doing this. So that's why I kind of stay away from TikTok a little bit, which is not a bad thing. For numbers wise, it is. Obviously, for an independent artist, you should always, that's a segue to anything. But at the same time, I just like to, I don't know. I think of myself like the blue collar type artist. Like, I just like the grind. I don't like to, like, obviously it's frustrating, but at the same time, I just love it. I don't like to take days off where I know I could actually be doing something. It's just how my brain works, I guess.
Yeah, no BS with random marketing and branding. You want to focus on the craft, on the art. And I know everybody wants to go to TikTok, right? I know TikTok is the new place to really, sell your music. But at the same time, I feel like it's so oversaturated at this point. And it's like, since everybody's doing it, is there even a point to hopping on, hoping to blow when low-key you know you won't? Maybe finding that forces you to find a different alternative or another creative endeavor to kind of push your music out there. But I love what you're doing, seriously. Adam knows me. I'm not a TikTok user, but of course we use it for SoundCentric, that business, the numbers matter, low key.
And I appreciate that too, because like, I'm gonna be completely honest with you, I put stuff on TikTok and I use TikTok, but I only use it to like gain a little bit more fan base. I like fan base more than like popularity type stuff. Like, I'm just always been like that. Like Chance is one of my biggest inspirations, and he's been independent forever. But I mean, like, he's hit like superstardom levels. But when he first started, like, his fan base was like, that was one of the most genuine things I saw in music at that time. And that's what really kickstarted me to be like, all right, I need to start releasing music.
Yeah, that's how it starts. Because a lot of times people have followers, but how many of those followers are going to buy a ticket? You all heard what happened to Steve Lacy when some people came to his concert and they only knew the
Didn't know the
chorus to what was it,
songs.
Bad
Yeah.
Habits, and they couldn't even sing anything else. That's what's gonna happen when you just care about a bunch of ghosts with no face to them instead of an
Yep.
actual
Yeah.
authentic fan base. You know, people like Chance, Logic, they kind of remind me of starting a real fan base that organic way. You know.
Yeah, that's like the ultimate goal for me. I mean, like obviously making it a career, like as an independent artist, would be amazing. But I know at the same time, realistically, and where I'm at now, like we're still in the starting stages of everything. Just like everybody else around me is also in the starting stages, who might be
Yeah.
more above than me right now. But at the same time, like they're still looking to find comfortability in the whole aspect of it. And I know where I'm sitting at right now, and I'm comfortable, but I'm not like too comfortable to be like, I'm gonna just be like this the rest of the time making music. Like I want to at
Yeah.
least progress chronologically.
Yeah. And to everything you said, like that's why I love Twitter over other social media platforms. 'Cause I just think like networking wise and like actually making connections, it's like amazing. Like my
Yeah,
friend says he reads like the Instagram comment section, but for me, it's like too many comments and too many. It's not people actually interacting with each other. Versus Twitter, you can have like a whole debate or conversation with people who become fans of your music, which I think is the best part. And
yep,
like Sam said, like getting 100 likes on a random tweet doesn't mean 100 people listen to your music. So it can be hard
that's true.
sometimes.
That's
Not like it
true.
can be hard sometimes focusing on that. I mean, I'll get like 10 likes on a tweet, and I'm like, damn, this shit's hitting. I got over 9.
Well,
This is
nowadays, 10 likes is actually pretty good because I feel like the algorithm's all jacked up. But back then,
yeah, low
Yeah,
key.
likes it wasn't nothing. But nowadays, it's like, yeah, that's actually something.
I was gonna say,
yeah.
Adam, do you think the same thing? That the algorithm is kind of slow? Because I feel like things are low key popping way more than it is now, specifically on TikTok and Twitter. It's a lot more harder now. I don't know if it's just
Some
me, but I've noticed
I
that
mean,
too.
sometimes I mean, so me and Sam just signed up for Twitter Blue because my brother for the longest time was like, "You gotta invest
I
in it,
know,
like,
guys, we
you
Yeah.
can
stink.
do it."
We're lame.
Finally, I'm like, "I'll try it out," and some of my tweets that were just random tweets, like Andrew Barber, if you know him,
Hmm.
he downloaded my video and tweeted it for himself. So it was like an Action Bronson NPR Tiny Desk clip. So it says "From Adam Dash" at the bottom. So I don't think that would have happened if I didn't have Twitter Blue. So
Yeah.
I think it's assisted me somewhat where random people have found my tweets that didn't follow me. But yeah, sometimes it's just 0 likes. Also, I hate that you can see how many people viewed the tweet. Like it was just so unnecessary of a thing
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
add.
The hardest part I've ever had someone tell me on Twitter one time is they said they made one of their hardest verses ever. Made a whole video and everything. Like actually put like a $500 budget into it. Put it
Uh-oh.
on Twitter and they got like 3 likes and it was like 1.1K views and I was like, oh no, bro.
Yeah.
He was sad. I
It's
think
like
he's stopping. I think I don't know. But
You say stop it.
yeah.
I don't.
Man, I'd rather just not see that ever. It was so unnecessary for anyone's mental health.
Or like
Yeah,
But
you see it and then it says tweet has been deleted. It's like, oh man.
yeah.
but it's like you said, Reed. It's like you said, you have to focus on the craft. Like I know sometimes when when I'm focused on my work, I'm not even thinking about numbers per se. It's just because I love doing it. It's like you said,
Yep.
you just love to rap, you love to write the bars, and that's gonna push you through, especially when you just it's not gonna be easy, especially as indie artists with no support, no backup. It's gonna be hard to get those numbers, but it's a process, it's a journey, and it's not gonna come quick like that. It's gonna take time.
I mean, just to get into the album, you were saying this before
Mm.
and I cut you off, but you made it your last 6 months of college. What was the process? Why that time period you're like, "I'm gonna sit down, make this album?"
Senior year rolls around, I'm thinking of a lot of things like what am I gonna do with my life after this like 6 month period before I graduate, like how I'm
I
gonna
feel that.
feel. Yeah, yeah. You get it. How are you gonna feel like towards like the end of it? And that's just kind of where the landscape came from. So I came from the first 6 month, like the end of the 6 month period. I think might have been around spring break or winter break. I think winter break, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna start on it. And then within that, I made each song by a month, basically. If it adds up, I don't know. I might have
Alright.
made took
And
a
you
month off, but
and you've told me about this other album that you've been creating for a while. I'm not sure, is that something you're still doing? Like that I'm not sure if you wanna release the name of that.
I am.
Um,
I still have it in the works. I kind of shelved it for a little
yeah,
bit.
so I'm just curious what went into, like, making this album and kind of, like, bunny hopping that other one that you had planned,
Yeah.
and, like, what's the difference between making this in 6 months versus, like, having an album that you've been creating for over a year. Like, for example, like J. Cole's had the fall off, been making it for 5 years. And we've discussed like what goes into making an album over that amount of time versus what's currently happening in your life.
Yeah, I think it was a hard choice, to be honest with you, because when I was making it, I was like, man, I really don't want to stop. Because I have spurts wherever I'm just spontaneously want to like make something and make like a whole project within like a month of like exactly what I know what I want. And then I've been making that for like a year, and I'm just like, I don't really want to shove it right now, but I know from my mental side, like I need to sit down and like just have my thoughts throughout songs. I want to be able to say when I graduated, I dropped an album that basically explains the whole process of going through that. So it's basically an album about making an album, essentially, kind of.
I'm about making an album. I like that.
I was gonna say, what was the process and how was it different from your previous albums, with Winslow and then Injury Report? How's the process a little bit different this time around?
The Injury Report's not even really an album; it's a mixtape, but I still call it an album. So
Mhm.
more of it, I was just trying to get out there. Winslow was more like I want to do some summer type stuff. But Wandering Out Loud I feel like it's my most personal one because a lot of stuff I
Yeah.
say in there, people don't catch. But like when my family listens to it, they're just like, I never knew that. You know what I mean? Like, you know, when you check in on somebody
Yeah.
after 5 years down the line, it's like, I never knew that about him. So that's essentially what that album brought. And then just being able to actually I love small albums. I don't know what it is. I just think they're more cohesive and
Nah,
they're more easily to listen to.
I'm team short album.
Yeah, so I was like 7 or 8. So I made 8. And I was just like, okay. And just the process was fun because like I got to take time off too and like enjoy life. So I think that's also helps with a lot of people's writing, and like my writing is just being able to enjoy life as much as possible before like, you know, the adult stuff comes around, which I'm already dealing with that
Yeah.
now, but it was fun.
And so you mentioned this, and we had talked to Seth Such about this on Dende. But when it comes to writing about things that are really personal that people like might not know, what's like your process, like how you get the confidence to be like, fuck it, like I'm just gonna drop it.
Yeah.
Because I've written things where I'm like, I don't want that person to listen to my song and be like, I know that's about me.
Yeah. That's funny you say that because a lot of stuff that I say is like pretty personal, and I feel like if I said it out loud, a lot of people would get the wrong idea. I'm very misunderstood sometimes the way I say things.
Yeah.
Like not in a bad person type way, but like my tone and some of the stuff is I would say it's kind of like misconstrued. But I think with rapping it helps. That's why I like to make a lot of songs where I'm
Yeah.
like trying to make a point. I put it in song because I feel like it's better that way. So like a lot of stuff like growing up like in a single parent home for most of the time, like I rap about my mom a lot just because she was around a lot. I rap about my grandma and my aunt because like they were when my mom was going to college when we were all young. She has 4 kids. She had 3 boys straight up the first go around, and then finally got a daughter. So
Wow.
when she was doing all that, they were taking care of us, and they were like basically our second moms. And I was raised by women, so like I always have like that infinity love for like I'm always respectful, and I always know how to be a gentleman in a certain way. Like my dad was around, and then my stepdad was around. Like they still are, but not to the extent of like what they had to endure while they were still doing all this stuff, raising kids, and then with my grandpa being around. So it was more or less like when I say stuff, I rap about them a lot because I actually mean it. Like especially if it's like gratitude, and they don't really listen to rap music, so it's kind of like it's a different type of
Yeah.
it's a different type of like way of communicating. Like if I put they're all country, like just love country. I don't get it, but at the same time, like I do. And then I wonder why sometimes they come up to me. They'll come up to me sometimes and just be like, "I don't know how you made that, how you worded it that way." I'm like,
Yeah.
I just let my thoughts go, essentially.
Yeah, my mom does not listen to rap music whatsoever. So like I'll play her song where there's a whole verse about her, and she's like, "What was that song about?" I'm like, "That whole what?" I'm like, I like said "mom" in it, like it was about you. She's like, "What?" I'm like, "She can I read the lyrics?" I'm like, "You can't read my handwriting. Like it's not
Oh,
worth it."
you do pen and paper? You do pen and paper
To
still?
show. Yeah, I do pen and paper, and my handwriting is so illegible. And sometimes I'll be like, if I'm recording right after I write it, I know what it says. If I come back a week later, I'm like, what word did I write right there? This
Reed, you
shit.
don't do pen to paper?
I do sometimes.
You're looking like Adam, like he was a grandpa or
Nah, I
something.
do sometimes.
Yeah, I
That's what I'm
got
saying.
Still?
Not a lot of people still do
Okay.
that. So that's respect, because I got some too that I do. Like if I'm in
Yeah,
the mood, I'll do it.
100%. But
yeah.
listen to this.
This shit's
Being
sloppy.
vulnerable makes music better. And
I
I
agree.
think that's what enhances any type of album. I look at want to push back on what you said too, even about the length of albums. Adam supports you on this route, but
Yeah. Team short.
uh I just feel like just because our generation now we have short attention spans, we want short albums. But back then albums were a lot longer and we everyone enjoyed them, they're classics, etc. I just don't think we can cope with long albums nowadays.
Yeah, I think it just depends on who puts out the long album. If it's Drake, obviously people are gonna listen to it.
Yeah.
But if it's like
Mhm.
somebody like me, like come on, like especially at this day and age, at this stage,
Mhm.
probably not. So it just depends on what
Yeah.
you prefer.
So you're just playing the game essentially. You're just playing the game and working on focus on the business aspect. You got to keep it a little bit short, and the song's a little bit short. That's just what's going on now, and that's the easiest way for people to digest it. Essentially, right?
Yeah, like essentially, bro, I'm just doing whatever. I'm running around everywhere.
Mhm.
I don't I don't stick to
Yeah.
one place. I just what can I find? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. My thing is that like in the 2000s and 90s, you bought an album, and even if you didn't like it, you paid $10, which is now a full month's worth to pay Apple Music to have access to every song ever made. So if I bought this album, I'm gonna listen to it front and back because I spent $10 on it.
Yeah.
But
Fair
now
enough.
it can be hard. So we were talking about Logic before, and I love made me fall in love with concept albums. So it could be hard for me because on one hand, the first song on the album should be the best song because if you're a small artist, you need to get people into the album right
Mhm.
away. On the other hand, I want the intro song to sound like an intro song.
Yeah.
To me, like there's a vibe to the intro song that's supposed to produce something. So I'm curious, like how you feel about that, because I'll go back and forth. Like the song doesn't fit as the second song, but it's the best song, so it probably should be up here in the album.
That's like my biggest thing with making music and like just seeing people's albums, because like I'm not no Anthony Fantano, but I do critique a little bit if I don't think a
Yeah,
song fits in a specific spot. But I do feel like a lot of stuff becomes more playlisty now, like from bigger artists than it is from independent. I feel like independent.
yeah,
I feel like this is just me. The internet can hate me for it. I don't care. But I feel like being an independent artist and like still on the rise and rise, I feel like they're more musically in tune than like rappers per se in the mainstream nowadays. That's just what I would think. But like that's what I do with my albums. Like I'll have a ton of songs and I'm just like, which ones go back to back the best, but which one sounds like an intro and which one doesn't. Like when I first started, I knew which one I wanted and I knew which one I wanted to end. Which that's what happens with Wandering Out Loud. Like I knew which one I wanted and I knew which one I made those two first before I made anything else.
hmm
But other than that, like
I mean,
yeah.
it helps create the vibe of the album. Like I've sent you this song, but I've had a song for over a year that I just know is the intro to the album, and it just has that vibe to it. And my brother's like, I don't know, it's like a pretty slow song to start. I'm like, it just encapsulates how I felt the past year way too well. And he's not a music guy, so he's coming from the perspective of someone who isn't listening to rap the way we listen to rap. But
Yeah.
hey, I mean, fuck it. If people are gonna listen, they're gonna get this thing in order of how I thought this would look.
Yeah. That's
He said, "Nah, I don't think
That's the
so."
thing
It's
with me
crazy.
too, because like a lot of people that listen to the music, especially like around here, that just know of me, like they critique things that are like you just wouldn't think about. I would say, like sometimes somebody said like one of my vocal
Yeah,
pitches on the hook was like you should have shortened it a little bit lower and it probably would have been better. I'm just like, yeah, maybe, I guess, I don't know. I don't think about it like that. He's like, but the song still bangs. I'm like, okay, then why are we talking?
yeah.
Like, okay, I'll
Yeah,
take it.
that's actually very specific feedback though.
It is, which
That's better
I
than
respect it.
someone like
I'm not very.
you'll send someone your album and they'll be
Yeah.
like, "Yo, the beats you picked were fire." I'm like, that's the only feedback. I'm like, I rapped. I didn't even make the beats, so don't
Oh,
compliment the beats too much.
I hate that sometimes because I know what I want, and when they're like, "Man, the production is crazy," I'm just like, "Well, I feel like I didn't do anything. I feel like it's an instrumental album at that point. It's just a playlist of instrumentals."
Yeah, And you'll send me
Well,
stuff, and
hey,
I try because I love your beat choice, so I try to
yeah.
I
make
appreciate
that a small compliment, but every beat you pick is actually because you got
Mhm.
that same taste as me. It's very Monte Booker, Smino, JID type production choices, Saba.
anything.
That whole kind of like
Yeah,
Dreamville, Chicago rap scene.
yeah, anything. Well, I grew up with that, so that's kind of
Hey, but listen to this. Mhm.
Yeah,
Like Adam said, the production slaps, but the biggest thing about you is you're really big on collaboration, which I think is really important for independent artists. Throughout your albums, you have plenty of collabs. How does that go back? Talk about the origin of CQCX and just your process of picking features.
oh man. I think that would be the most underrated skill that I have. Like, if I was to have any skill, that would be one that I'd pick that I know for sure I can use to the fullest extent. Like, I know how to. You know how people say like West Side Gun says he's like the best curator in hip hop. I feel
yeah,
like I could probably run him some change for that. I feel like sometimes I can pick
yeah,
just from blatantly hearing somebody and like hearing a beat, I'd be like, I know who sounds perfect for this, and I know where the direction could go. And most times, that's what happens. I would say like that's the one skill that I have. If I don't have anything else, that'd be like the one that I pinpoint. But and people get mad at me sometimes too, like you have too many collaborations on your album. I'm like, bro, I don't care. Saba has like 2 songs by himself on every one of his albums besides Care for Me, and they still slap. It's like it does not matter as long as I'm putting my
yeah.
presence on there. And I get it trying to be more individual, like making your own stuff, which I have like a project or two, like just me. But at the same time, it's like I love hearing other people's perspective on a song that I made.
I was gonna say, in terms of being a collective, how does business work amongst you guys? In terms of since everybody puts, I'm assuming, effort into a specific project, and you may get revenue. How does that work? And also, when you're working together, when people contribute to your work, is it still a business-minded thing, or is it a relationship where it's like we work together, it's all together? Money is not a factor here.
I think it was more a relationship thing. Like
Hmm.
I never, if you're the homie, I'm never gonna make you pay.
Hmm.
That's just me.
Yeah.
But like that's just how our relationship works. Is a lot of
Yeah.
it is. I mean, for Tyler, it's different because he's not an artist, so we pay him for his work because he deserves it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the others don't deserve it for being artists, because I think I've tried to pay a few, like King or Sav or some for a feature just because they earned it. But
Hmm.
at the same time, like from the artist perspective, we don't. But
Hmm.
like from Tyler's perspective, we do, just because it's a different aspect of the genre we're in.
Yeah, 100%. What's your opinion when it comes to independent artists? I guess it kind of depends if they are part time or full time. But I always tell Adam this, like me and my collective, what we do, we are like 100% in, and it's all relationship based. We don't believe in, at least within the collective, of letting money be a factor just because we're in it to rise together. And you can't blow up if you're putting each person down in a sense. You want to get there together. Once you're there, then you can discuss the money. But what's your opinion? Do you think that people should still be able to charge an arm and a leg? I know producers are an issue. Adam talks about it all the time
Yeah.
with YouTube producers and their different tier plans, and you only get one live performance as if you'll know where I perform.
Yeah.
But what do you think?
I think what y'all are doing, that's how I would do it.
Yeah.
I think it definitely, they deserve it from a
Hmm.
business perspective, but like
Yeah.
if they're not biting on it, then it's not, just leave it alone.
Yeah.
That's how I do it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes
shit can get
sense.
so expensive just making an album. I remember like budgeting out my thing, and like I want Tyler to hypothetically do the art and say he's charging like 150 for the cover. I'm like, man, I can go on Canva right now and try to work something up because I don't have the money to pay for the single cover and for the album cover and for maybe another single cover. And then on top of that, like each beat's like a $30 at the minimum for the lease. Shit adds up. And the mix, I know we've talked about the mix. I'm like, you know what? My mix is fine. We'll see if we can go with this.
That's the one thing about albums. Like an independent artist, you got to spend everything out of pocket. You don't got
Yeah.
labels money.
Yeah,
So,
for
and
sure.
then a lot of it, like what you said, like I think I think his prices are too low just for
Oh,
what he does, because he's
they're
done a
fine.
lot.
Yeah, they're
Yeah,
completely like great prices. Just for me right now, I'm like $150. I don't got
but
$150.
I get that though. I get that though, because I've done the same thing to him. I'm like, I don't really have the money right now, so I'm just like, I'm kind of slacking. But I was like, if we can figure something out. And at the start we did, but like now I just make sure I have it all in full
Yeah,
now, so it doesn't be like he has to hit me up, be like, hey, you said you're gonna pay on this day. I just make sure I have it. But like, if I don't have it, like I'm like you, I'm just like, I'll just wait. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No,
And
they're
find
expensive. Even mainstream albums, like they cost thousands of. I'm trying to find the exact price here, but people have spent like $50,000, $40,000. Like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy albums, like top tier. What Travis is doing with Utopia and Astroworld, they cost a lot, and you really have to put in effort to make the album. Like it's not a joke. Clearly, when you're an independent artist, you're putting everything into it, and that's how you got to lead with.
Yeah. I would love to have $50,000 to spend because then I could just buy all the
Yeah.
beats straight up and get all the revenue instead of splitting. But at the same time, I'm like, I'll just go with like the middle lease, the end lease, and then we'll just let it rock. Because
Yeah.
a
And I
lot of those
underestimated
streams
it.
that they have on those leases are unrealistic.
Yeah.
I
And
underestimated too. They said Life of Pablo was 5 million
that's crazy.
to make.
I mean, it
Yeah.
makes sense. I mean, he has all those features.
Yeah,
When
it
it comes to
does make sense.
when it comes to his revenue splits, like, man, if a producer reaches out to me, like, you use my song, and I credit them, but I'm like, dude, you can take all 10 cents the song made. I will give you full profit share. you didn't miss out on too much change with it.
That's how it is for me because there was on DistroKid, there was some, you go through distro, Adam?
Yeah, I go to
Or
distro.
are you going to go through a distro? So I went through distro. That's like my main source, DistroKid. And then I'll do the splits when I get the albums or the singles I'll put up. And most of the producers on there don't even have a profile on DistroKid. So I actually paid out of my own pocket $100 for them to get their own profile.
Really?
I did that so they can get their stream because I'm big on giving back.
Yeah.
And like half of them didn't even like one song had I made like $20 off of, and they're just like haven't. So it's just sitting there.
Yeah. I guess you could always in the future just like hit them up and be like, "I Venmo you. I'm gonna put this in my bank account. I'll just Venmo you." Versus making a whole account.
And like sometimes I've tried to hit them up and like email them or like Instagram DM wherever they can be, and like I don't try to heckle them, but like, hey, I got this. If you're still wanting it, like it's here. Like I'm not taking it. So
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah.
respect. You gotta respect these artists for putting their time in. I respect that you actually went out of your way to make an account for them. I mean, that's pretty crazy.
I'm
to
not
think
gonna do that ever again.
Yeah,
I'm not doing that ever again.
but just to finish things up, we love to hear from independent artists what advice they would give to indie artists. So, what is your piece of advice?
Oh man, you guys got me a spot right here.
Yeah.
Oh, I got a good one that's gonna probably melt some heads.
Okay,
Alright,
say less.
Let's hear it.
Quantity over quality is fine if you're an independent artist. It is fine. The quality, yes, should still be there, but quantity over quality isn't a bad thing. You can go either way. It doesn't matter. But I would say just keep your foot on the gas, not releasing. Don't be like me when I first started and just want to release every other month.
I did that.
Which I'm still doing that. Like, I'll meet you guys in the middle of September, October. We can chat about that.
Yeah.
Like, make sure you have stuff stashed. Make sure you're like semi-prepared, and having quantity over quality isn't a bad thing. I know a lot of people are gonna be like fighting over that. I mean, I can see both sides. I'm not a type of person to burn bridges over an opinion. To be honest, I don't have a lot of opinions. I just try not to like fancy them. So like that'd be like one that I would say is like don't get caught up in what people say about that particular thing. Just be more caught up about how you can be better. Because sometimes quantity over quality, you're making more quantity. You're finding yourself within what you actually want to make and what you sound good in, and progressing within your vocals, within your actual rapping, your writing. It's a whole thing. So I mean, don't try to just stick to one thing. Always try to. I wouldn't say genre bend, but in the sense genre bend your evolution, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. I think it's helpful to drop a lot. I mean, in high school, I would drop a song right after I made it. And maybe sometimes I should have lived with the song a little bit longer because definitely music I've made where I'm like, I don't like it as much anymore. Versus like what I made now, I'm like, if I like it a year later, like it must be somewhat good.
You want to know something? You want to know something that's crazy? People roast me for this.
Mm-hmm.
Now I do not like the injury report. I don't like it.
Yeah, I can't listen to
Really?
I can't listen to my old music. Sometimes I'll hear a song, I'll be like, oh, that that was a good one. Why didn't I carry that momentum? And I'm like, ugh, I can't listen to that shit. And then I haven't released music in 2 years, so people only know me for what came out 2 years ago. So my school friends will mention a song, and I'm like, or if I meet someone and they're like, "You make music? Like, can I see it?" I'm like, "I don't want to show you what's out right now. The new stuff's better."
It'd be like that sometimes though. I got people from my high school be like, dude, I remember when you always said, thought you were joking when you said you would drop a mixtape. I didn't know you had a whole catalog. I said,
Yeah.
happens,
Let,
bro.
let me ask you this about that album. Were you working on that project completely solo, or did you still have some support compared to like being with your collective now?
Nah, I didn't start being with CQCX till this last album.
So it's
I was
completely
doing all that. I
solo.
did that in Winslow all by myself. Yep.
Yeah, so I guess that makes sense too. Like you, Adam, too. Like you did that album by yourself. You really had
Yeah.
no help, and that's tough doing that by yourself and starting out with your first
It
project
is.
as a beginner. It's not going to be exactly how you want it.
It's like, it's basically like doing anything from scratch and having to figure out what direction you want to go. And like I said, I say I don't really like it, but it's my baby. Like that's my first introduction to the world. So a lot of people gravitate towards it, which a lot of my top songs are from that album. Me personally, like I love it, but like at the same time I don't.
Yeah.
I think it's what Adam was saying. Like people go back to the songs more, but it's just like I feel like my new stuff's a lot more shelled out.
Yeah.
The cool part
More
is you can see what
authenticity,
you can see what your mind state was like at that time, which is always a fun part of like I can go to high school and be like, oh, I remember like that's how I felt when I wrote that song. But I know like
Yeah.
freshman year of college, I got really into storytelling and like Kendrick Lamar vocal inflections, and I can't listen to my album because I'm doing way too much with my voice. That does not sound good. But I'm like, hey,
From a
that's how it's feeling.
who does that all the time, I understand.
Well, yeah, I see the eye tattoo on the arm, so clearly Kendrick is your guy. Yeah, I saw that.
Y'all,
Yep.
Oh, shit.
people thought it was people thought it was a Bloods Crip thing. I'm like, that's
No,
not what that means.
that's what I was looking at. I was looking at it sideways, so I didn't realize it was a letter. You turn into. What do you
Yes.
what do you prefer? What do you prefer more, the live version on the album or the radio version of I? Because like sometimes I'll go through
For
a
me, it's
phase
the
of going
live
on
version.
YouTube, looking up like To Pimp a Butterfly reactions, and I know Fantano said he loves a live version. I think I gotta go live
Yeah,
version
he
too.
swapped it out anyways. The single he released was the radio version.
No,
Then
yeah, I know.
after
Yeah,
like he got some, yeah. So yeah.
I think the live version fits the album better.
yeah. What an album! It keeps falling off my wall behind me because I keep ripping it.
What an album, bro.
Hey,
Wow.
Kendrick's the GOAT, but also you too, man. You deserve your flowers. We appreciate you so much for being here. If you haven't heard his album yet, Wandering Out Loud,
Ugh.
please go and check it out right now. Put it in the description. But thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one. We'll see ya.
Yeah. Peace.